sign
Sure,
it.
we're gonna buy something.
I don't know if we're going to buy anything, but I thought at least a card.
They quickly want
Not
to.
everybody like. To speak on urban hens, please get a form over here. We usually don't accept any more forms once the meeting has begun. So just a reminder to you, this is the good time, if not just urban hens, on anything you're here to speak about. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Legal and Finance Committee for the City of Rapid City on July 15th, 2020. First up is roll call and determination of quorum.
Drew.
Here.
Lehman. Here. Armstrong. Here. Jones. Here. Solomon. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Next up is the adoption of the agenda. Could I hear a motion? Moved by Armstrong, second by Solomon, excuse me. He's back, and I got his name wrong the first time. Second by Solomon. All in favor? Aye. Now it leads us on to general public comment, a time for the members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. Anybody that wanted to speak on chickens, did you want to speak now, or will you wait for the item? If you want to speak now, just go ahead and head over and introduce yourself. Okay. This is general public comment.
But for stuff not on the agenda.
Yeah, but they can talk on anything they want to in general public comment, as far as I.
That's not on the agenda.
Okay, all right. Stand corrected. Cody, you'll have to sit on down until we get to the item. We go to consent items number 1 through 9. Public comment is opened on 1 through 9, and I have no public comment on that, so public comment is now closed. And now we go to the members present to see if they'd like to remove anything from the consent agenda. Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I pull item number 4, please?
And I would like to pull item 5. So could I have a motion for all the consent items with the exception of 4 and 5?
Move approval.
Moved by Pat Jones, second by Laura Armstrong. All in favor?
Aye.
That brings us to item number 4. Approve resolution number 2020-060, a resolution amending certain fees to be charged in 2020 for various licenses, permits, and applications. The chair recognizes Jason Solomon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I direct a question to Ken Young?
Of course.
All right. Ken, do you want to just kind of briefly, for the public and our benefit, explain where most of these fees and the electrical inspections are coming from?
Yes, the State Electrical Commission recently met about actually 2 months ago and adopted an increase to the electrical fees for electrical permitting. We have no ability to go against that. We have to charge whatever their new rates are. And so this is something that we need to put into place and practice immediately to follow their mandate.
And I always appreciate whenever we change fees that we have the justification for that, so thank you for including that. One other change that was in there was the renewal of licenses from like 3 to 2 year renewals. Is that part of the state mandate, or is that something we need to investigate further? Pauline?
I think that was actually left over from the last time we did the updates that were effective July 1 already. And
Okay.
so those, depending on, I'd have to look at it again, but I think those are left over. So that's,
So do you think those are accidental reds?
yeah,
Red
that they
lines?
should be black and they're already done.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. I yield.
Need a motion?
Second.
Motion by Lance Lehman, second by Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Number 5, that was pulled by me. Acknowledge May 2020 sales tax report. Pauline, if you could just tell us a little bit about that sales tax report.
You bet. This is the sales tax report through the month of May. We have not received anything for June yet, and it shows less than a 1% decrease from the same 5-month period last year. When we did our COVID budget amendments, we estimated an average for the year of a 12.5% decrease. Our original budget was for about a 2.5% increase, so really we're only down about 3.5% over what was originally budgeted. And so somewhat somebody just cut my mic out.
And we don't want to hear good news.
Yeah, cautiously optimistic. A lot more will be known as we continue on through the tourism season.
Thank you for clarifying that, and I need a motion.
I want.
Oh, excuse me, Pat Jones. This is my first
No
meeting in
problem.
the driver's seat again, so Pat Jones.
Thank you again. Question for Pauline, if I may.
Go ahead.
So obviously during that time, some things went way down because businesses weren't open and that kind of thing. Do you know what type of things went up to help make up the difference?
I can speculate. So if I were to report also on the BBB tax, which is the bed, booze, and board tax, I'm going to go this way first. They were actually down about 50% for the month of May. We budgeted 75% down. So again, better than we originally projected. But what we've been seeing are like Walmart and the grocery stores are all extremely busy. Lowe's, Menards are extremely busy, and so they've also made up some of that difference, in my opinion. I don't get the details specifically to know that for sure, but that would be my speculation.
Mine as well. Thank you. I yield.
I believe the motion was by Lehman and the second by Armstrong. Is that correct? Second by Pat Jones. Okay. All right. All in favor? Aye. That the May 2020 sales tax report is acknowledged. And that brings us to the end of our consent calendar. Now we go to the non-consent items. And let's see, this is where we'd have some comments from the folks in the audience that would like to speak about Urban Hens. So public comment is now open on items 10 through 15. And I have quite a few speaker requests. So I'm going to start with Carol Merwin, if I may. Please come up to the podium and state your name, please, and your address. I would like to remind anybody in the audience that this is not an area where we cheer or clap after anything, even if you do agree with it. So,
Carol Merwin, 1920 Fremont Street, apartment 100. And I just think that having hens in town is a very good idea. It helps people with their gardens because they get the fertilizer and the insect removal, etc. So I just think it's a wonderful way to have part of nature and get eggs.
Thank you, Carol. Next up is Avery Craven. Please go to the podium and state your name again and give us your address.
Hi, I'm Avery Craven. I live on South Bray Pine. So I'm a college student, so I'm broke, and I work at a local coffee shop, and I also have like a graphic design business in town too. So I'm kind of like an average person here. So I have some really serious health issues, and so I have to be really careful about what I eat. And so farmers markets are super expensive out here because there aren't a lot of options. So having fresh eggs is like very convenient for me, and it saves me quite a bit every month, or it would at least. Another thing is that noise I know is a concern, but I have never been woken up by chickens because I used to live in California where they were legal, and I never woke up from them, at least from hens, at least. Roosters, but hens never a problem, but I definitely been woken up by grumpy neighbor dogs, so. And then at coffee shops, I can take grounds and use them in my garden, but they take quite a while to kind of get in the soil. But the chicken fertilizer is very easy to use, and it's super convenient because it's right there and it's natural, and I know what they're being fed because I can feed them they eat ticks and spiders, which I hate both, and then I can pull weeds and just throw them in there, and that's the dream, isn't it? Knowing everything is very sustainable and healthy, so that's very awesome. Yeah, I think they're really easy to take care of. It's like pulling weeds, you're already doing it anyway, but if you just give it to them, then it's all self-sustaining, and then you can cut down on egg carton waste and save some money in the process. And so, yeah, I think they also made great pets for me growing up, but yeah, that's why I think that it would be awesome if we could legalize hens out here, because I miss mine, so, okay, thanks.
Thank you, Avery. That brings us to Brita Craven. Do I have that right? Just state your name again and your address.
Hi, I'm Brita Craven at 316 Berry Boulevard, and I'm a voting taxpayer in Ward 5, and I'm very thankful for you bringing this issue back up. And I think you're all well aware of all the benefits of hens and all the low incidence of troubles with hens and all the big and beautiful cities in our nation and around the world. And so I'd like to bring up the reason why I would personally like hens, and that is just a little bit more food security. Even if we only had 4 hens, just an egg a day is just enough to give us some confidence and feel like, if all hell breaks loose and everything falls apart for a couple of weeks and we can't get out or whatever, we would feel a lot better if we could have that. And I would hope that the government would, try and encourage self-reliance and help us to provide ourselves with some food security. That, and then I'd like to address the issue of the number one issue that was written on here, fostering hens. If there was trouble, say someone couldn't take care of them. And I'm one of the administrators of the Rapid City Hens Facebook group, which has been around for about 8 years. And through that time, people through the Black Hills, different areas, not Rapid City that I know of, have had trouble saying, oh, my husband died or whatever, we're moving and we need a place for these hens. Within 2 days, people had a place for the hens. There's no trouble with that. It's already been demonstrated. So that's it. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. That brings us to Bill Evans. I'd like to remind you, I only have 3 minutes.
Hey, Bill Evans, Alderman for Ward 2, and member of the Sustainability Committee. We talked about this on Monday night at length for probably a half hour, pros and cons, and we were offered the services of Western Dakota Vote Tech to offer a course in management. There's one of the directors out there is already raising chickens on his own land, and he was willing to create a class that would allow certification for people that wanted to do that, and it would be a way of letting people know all of the pros and cons of what they're getting into. My only concern as a person, I'm not neither pro nor con, to be honest with you. When you live in a community, you affect everybody around you, and it's not just that you want to have hens, but the people on either side of you may not want hens. And I honestly don't know where the public stands on this. They may not give a rip. They might be 90% opposed. I know there's always a vocal majority pushing for something that matters, whether it's, in-town bow hunting or whatever it may be. You're going to hear from the people it affects the most because it's what they're into. So I think before we pass anything, and before I'd be willing to vote yes, I'd like to know where the general public stands on it a little bit better. The reality is, as a person, now we have a legacy ranch. We own a ranch, had it in the family. It's 13 years now. We've had chickens, sheep, horses, cattle, everything under the sun. It's not as simple as a lot of people think. I mean, it's not like having a goldfish where you dump it in every day and they keep on living, and if they die, you flush it down the toilet. It takes some effort, and I can't see as it's going to create huge problems for people, but nonetheless, there's going to be people getting involved in it that don't have any clue what they're really, it's trendy, it's faddish and all that stuff. Well, I want to do it, and then in 10 minutes, that puppy, like I said the other night, that puppy they thought was so cute and cuddly turns out being a 140-pound Great Dane, and they don't know what to do with it. So we don't want to be forcing the Humane Society to take on a responsibility they probably, and I know, don't want, because there are going to be problems with people that way. Plus, whenever you change an ordinance or something that allows people to do one thing, you don't know what the neighbors on either side want. Is there something that we want to do to make sure if a person has the chicken coop in their yard, neighbors on either side don't absolutely hate it? Because it does affect us, and that's the reason we live in town. I like green acres. I'm not wanting city life in the country, and I'm not wanting country life in the city. I'm not like Oliver and what's her name. I think we should know what the people want. Perhaps we need to get the neighbors to sign off if somebody wants to have hens, because the reality is we do have predators in this area, mountain lions, foxes, other things, and they're not going to be in that yard. They're going to be in the next door neighbor's yard. So we just need to think about these before we vote on it. Thank you.
Cody Brown, you're up next.
My name is Cody Brown. I live at 4110 Brookside Drive here in Rapid City. I'm here in support of the hen ordinance for urban hens in Rapid City. Some of the biggest reasons why I think it's important to have hens is I personally am a real estate agent, and I have people that I work with on a regular basis that are asking about the hen policy and that would like to have their own hens for sustainability. I grew up around farms, stuff like that. If you have just hens, the noise level is not there. So if people are violating the proposed ordinance, which is for hens only, and have roosters, and I agree that could be a problem and would have to be dealt with. We have also talked to people of the community and would be willing to get support from local farms outside of the community that would take any fostered hens or hens that were taken away or that people couldn't care for or that escaped. My partner, he works at Walmart stocking shelves, and I think you guys all know what it's been like at the grocery stores with the pandemic. And eggs is one thing that go, and the ones that are left are the really expensive eggs and the ones that people can't always afford. If we had people in Rapid City that had hens and eggs and the ability to share those eggs with the community, we'd be in a much better place when things like that happen, because there are people that can't afford $5 for a organically fed, however they want to say it, chicken egg. I think we can all attest to also that they're good for pest control, that they do eat bugs. Their fertilizer is another good reason to pass the ordinance. And then I do agree with the gentleman before me that there should be a class, and that could be a requirement of getting the hens. I mean, I think we'd all be open to learning more and making sure that we're being responsible in the decision if we do decide to, move forward with getting chickens. So I'm in support of it, and thank you guys for the time.
Thank you. And last up, we have Madison Hoffman.
My name is Madison Hoffman. I live at 3411 Hall Street, and I'm 15 years old. I personally love animals so much, but I am unable to get a dog because of allergies. And I have recently gotten anxiety from school, and I found that if I'm around animals, I am much calmer, and I think it would be really cool to have chickens and to be able to get your own eggs. I have cousins who live in the Denver metro area, and they are able to have hens, and it made me very jealous. So I think that we are behind on this, and that we should be able to have hens. I'm not in support of roosters. I think that's a bad idea, but yeah. Having hens would allow people to be self-reliant and self-sustaining. And we are like an agricultural state. We should allow like our kids to experience what that's like and to learn how to be responsible, like with caring for things. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
I would like to thank you personally, Madison, at 15. That was extremely well said and very courageous of you to come up and speak to a council. It's not that easy of a thing for grown-ups. And you are a very mature 15-year-old, so thank you for your comments. That closes public comment for now. And now we'll get on to some other items that we have to address before getting to the urban hen discussion. So let's see here. Finance Department. This is number 10 on your agenda. Introduction of the first reading of ordinance number 6432 regarding supplemental appropriation 4 for 2020. Need a motion? Move to approve by Armstrong, second by Jones. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Item 11, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6433 regarding supplemental appropriation 5 for 2020. Move to approve by Jones, second by Armstrong. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Community Development, item 12. Second reading and recommendation of ordinance number 6423, an ordinance amendment to recodify establishment and organization of the Historic Preservation Commission by removing section 17.54.010E and adding chapter 2.62 to the Rapid City Municipal Code. Motion to approve by Solomon, second by Lehman. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. 13, second reading and recommendation of ordinance number 6434, an ordinance amendment to revise the requirement for plan development overlay by amending section 17.50.050 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. Moved by Armstrong to approve, second by Lehman. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. City Attorney's Office. Authorize mayor to execute certain documents which will commit the city to pay monies previously allocated for the renovation of Fitzgerald Stadium to a financial institution financing a portion of the project on behalf of Black Hills Sports, Inc.
Madam Chair, if I...
Oh, excuse me, Jason. Yes?
First of all, I'll make the motion to forward to City Council without recommendation. If I can get a second and retain the floor. Thank you. Basically, talking to both Pauline and Joel Andine in the City Attorney's Office, we may have some more information that may be able to come with regards to the details with this. Let me do say, though, I believe this project's already been vetted and approved. I have every intention of moving it forward, but I do want to make sure that if we're going to recommend something, we have at least all the information possible. So at least by Monday night, hopefully we'll have some more information available. Thank you.
I see that Joel is at the podium. Joel, would you like to speak on this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just to reiterate, I wanted to make clear this isn't new money or anything. It is really an acknowledgement to help the bank of money that you've already previously agreed to put towards this project. If you recall, one of the issues when you fully funded the project is that some of the money is not available until 2023 or 2024. And one of the goals was to try to get the project constructed in a single season so it would have less disruption. And so in order to have enough cash to pay the contractor by 2021, Black Hills Sports has obtained a commitment to obtain financing to pay the balance of the construction costs. What they are asking you to do is to put into writing your commitment to pay the bank the money that was appropriated in 23 and 2024 to help retire that debt. It's likely there may be a gap where that money is not going to be sufficient to cover the entire loan amount, and Black Hills Sports and the banks have accepted that Black Hills Sports will be responsible for that. And so the purpose of these documents is, one, to commit to the bank that you will appropriate that money. So if you were to decide not to appropriate that money in 23 or 24, it likely would result in a lawsuit, but it will give the bank the comfort level they need in order to issue the loan to Black Hills Sports. Furthermore, from our perspective, what I am looking for in the agreement is to make absolutely clear that the city's commitment to this project legally is the money that you've appropriated previously, and that it's clear to the bank and to Black Hills Sports that we are not guaranteeing the loan in its entirety. We are guaranteeing it up to the amount we've currently allocated. So again, there's no additional money. I will say document, originally we were looking at bank documents, and frankly, they did not really fit the situation. So at the end of last week, I drafted an MOU that I think in more in layman's terms spells it out, and that is currently in the bank's legal department. I did have a conversation with representatives of the bank just prior to this meeting, and what I would like to do, I think we're close enough that I will, after this meeting, sometime this afternoon, forward to the entire council the draft documents, and we will have those linked for the council meeting so people will have an opportunity to look at it. And I would hope at this point that if there are any changes prior to Monday night, they would be minor and we can handle it, or we can update them prior to the weekend. I'm fairly confident that before the end of Friday, we will have finalized documents. So, but I think at this point, if I can get you what we have now, it'll be pretty close to what the final documents are. So you will have hopefully time to review them prior to Monday night. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Yes, we do have some questions, and for the people here, I'd like to introduce, I call him Joel, which is kind of like just a friendly term, but he is our city attorney, Mr. Landine, and I just want the folks in this room to understand who we're talking to here. Chair recognizes Laura Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I address Mr. Landine?
Yes.
Great. Mr. Landine, first and foremost, thank you for doing all this extra work to make sure that this kind of comes through. This is not something very unusual, correct? My recollection is we did something similar with the One Heart, just to show the bank that...
Yeah, we did. And I think part of the issue is that a lot of times with our Vision Fund, we have an agreement with the organization because they're actually constructing the project. But because Fitzgerald Stadium is a city facility, okay, we don't have a Vision Fund agreement with Black Hills Sports because essentially we are managing and administering the construction contract on the city facility. So the bank wants something in writing or some commitment, formal commitment from the city that we will honor that obligation into the future. Normally, the Vision Fund agreement we enter into with these organizations serves that purpose, but because we don't have a Vision Fund agreement with Black Hills Sports, based on the fact we own the property, this will essentially serve the place, although it's slightly different than our normal Vision Fund agreement.
Okay.
But no, it's not, and I think everyone knew at the time because of the way the money allocated for the project was going to become available, that it was no secret that Black Hills Sports was going to obtain financing and cover the construction at the time this was done. And this is just the next piece to formalize that so we can finalize the loan documents, or so that they can finalize the loan documents.
Okay. So by Mr. Solomon's motion, will this impede any of the
No.
plans or by delaying it to Monday? I see his point completely, but I don't want to muddy the waters by delaying it either. I just want to be very clear.
No, I think that's what we're trying to get it through on Monday. I'm not even going to say if for some reason we had to continue it on Monday that it's necessarily a problem. Technically, we have the money allocated to cover it, but obviously the contractor wants to get paid before 2023 or 2024. So I'm highly confident that they are going to obtain the loan at this point. I think this agreement more serves as a insurance policy for both the city and the financial institution 2 or 3 years down the road. I think it's unfair to ask you to approve something you haven't seen, which is why I suggested to Alderman Solomon that the appropriate motion would likely to be to take it to council without recommendation. I want to make sure you have sufficient time that you're comfortable approving it on Monday night.
Perfect.
But don't want to ask you to recommend approval of something you haven't seen yet, so.
Exactly. Great. Thank you so much for clarifying. I yield.
Chair recognizes Pat Jones.
Thank you very much, Chair. May I continue with Mr. Landine?
Sure.
Thank you. You did say the V word, the Vision Fund, and I just wanted to make sure that that got tossed out here so everyone knew that that was the funding source for it. Could you just give us a 20-second primer on the Vision Funds?
Well, actually for this project, I think the primary funding for it now, although there are some vision, but a lot of the project got moved into the CIP fund, although they're kind of similar entities, but because again, it is a city facility. So again, this went through the process. There was a recommendation, the council reviewed it. They made an initial recommendation of, I think, 2.3 million in funding, and then came back later when it was decided we could use, or there were some CIP funds available, and basically in, I think, March of this year, allocated so that you could fully fund the One Heart and this. So again, this is not general fund monies. It is out of the special tax fund that is used for these type of projects. So.
And that's the point I was shooting for here. So thank you very much. Not general fund money. It's the special money set aside for special projects just like this. Thank you, Mr. Landine. I yield. Thank you, Mayor.
Joe Landine, if you just stay there for one last question and a comment. The CIP funds is the Community Improvement Projects Fund, which is part of the sales tax that you pay for good projects around the city. Is there a reason we haven't disclosed the financial institution financing a portion of this?
No, I think part of the issue is, my understanding it's a participation loan, so they've spread out the risk among several institutions. I think it's safe. I don't think it's any secret that it's going to be First Interstate Bank is going to be the lead institution. So from our perspective, the institution we'll be dealing with is First Interstate. But again, my understanding is several financial institutions are participating in the loan. And honestly, I don't know what the other ones are. I've been dealing with First Interstate.
Well, I see no other lights, so the motion is to move to council on Monday without recommendation. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Landine. Now we go to Alderman items, and that is the discussion of the new ordinance allowing for urban hands with restrictions. And I'm going to take a little point of privilege here because this is something that I brought forward. The first time that I was introduced to urban hands and the reason to have them in town was in 2014 when I was first elected. It went down in flames, and it's taken 6 years to get it back. And I've been working with the community development folks on this for several months. They've been great and have really helped me kind of get together something that I think we can get behind. And I'm going to read just the preliminary items for the members for a possible ordinance so that you can debate and discuss these things. I have hoped that you read them. I sent them to your email, but the license would be obtained from the Black Hills Humane Society for the keeping of domestic hens. Just a little side note on that, they are not in favor of domestic hens. However, I think that we could work something out now that we have groups that are going to be able to, the urban hen group that will take the feral escapee chickens, or if they have to be rehoused. I think that would take some of the pressure off of them. Hens shall only be allowed on property zoned for single-family dwelling. No more than 4 chickens or hens shall be kept on a licensed premise. Roosters are prohibited, okay? So that takes care of the noise there. We have dogs we know that are more loud. Hens will be housed in secure, predator-proof, and well-ventilated roof structure. Secure mesh-style fence shall be constructed around the hen enclosure. The fenced area and structure cannot be located in the front or side yard that abuts a street or within a drainage area and must be kept neat and sanitary condition at all times. Hens shall have continuous access to food and water. The feed shall be stored in a predator and a rodent-proof container, and the chickens shall be maintained in healthy condition. I think that that actually should allay some of the fears of the people out there that are against this particular ordinance going forward. We received 10 comments, on the portal where you can put comments in for the council. 9 were in favor of the hen ordinance and only 1 was opposed. I'm sure after this meeting we'll be hearing more from both sides. However, I'm really appreciative of all the people that showed up at a noon meeting to talk about this today. And now I'd like to open the floor to discussion among the members present. Jason Solomon.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks everybody for being here. I know this is a passionate topic. Thank you, DARLA, for bringing this forward. Appreciate the initiative. Regardless of where this leads, I always appreciate the initiative and the discussion. Personal stance is I want to find a way to yes, okay? But with proper guardrails in place so that we can make sure that we are not having negative effects on neighbors, infringing on anybody else's rights, and of course being humane to the hens themselves. From what I understand, and city staffer can chime in on this, Sioux Falls has something they passed in the last year or two. Joel, do you think, maybe you're the right person, do you think that would be something that we would work on crafting an ordinance based on, just as a rough start? I know they have 6, for example. We're asking for 4. But is that how you would kind of begin this process, or with DARLA's recommendations?
You know, certainly our office would be involved in it. I think we've already looked at Sioux Falls, as Alderman Drew indicated, that this isn't our first go-round with this, so there's already been a fair amount of work done. I would actually, my recollection is Sioux Falls has actually had this for probably 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
I certainly think we would look at it. I know even leading up to this discussion, there was some drafts of a pilot project. I think that if the council wants to proceed, probably the appropriate way is for planning and my staff to work with maybe Alderman Drew or some other stakeholders and bring something back to be vetted for the council, because again, I think a lot of work's already been done, so I don't know that it's going to take a lot of work at this point to get something in writing.
You know, my big thing is it's new to our community. It can go wrong, and with the Humane Society not in favor of that and their licensing, I think that's an issue that needs to be resolved. I think minimum requirements for, I guess, distance from other houses probably should be included as part of this. From what I understand, Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, but homeowners associations can still prohibit that even though the city allows it, correct?
That's correct. That's a private covenant between those groups. One other thing I'll say, you have chickens in town now. I mean,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure one of my neighbors has one, or has some. So, you know, if your neighbors are okay with it, it's probably, and aren't calling the police, it's probably going to be fine. And if they aren't, then it's going to be an issue whether they're licensed or not. But at least if they're licensed, we have some recourse and maybe help with that. But I think as far as a pilot program to see how it goes, we could do that. And there's already a draft of that previously. And I think, again, we already have them, and it doesn't seem to be causing too many problems. But obviously, if you legalize it, you're going to have an increase in the number probably. So we'll see what happens.
And that's true, and if I still have the floor, I'm just trying to kind of get these thoughts and questions out, but, so I want to get together. I love eggs. I mean, they're all, especially farm fresh eggs, it's the best, no doubt about it. And I know we have some in town. We want to make it, create a path for this to happen. Sometimes I've had friends who got a couple or few hens before and they didn't realize how much they pooped and how much work that was. It's part of the process, and I appreciated Mr. Brown. I think he was sharing maybe some education components to this, how to kind of the care of the chickens and the hens, and to do it correctly, I think would be good. But basically what I'm saying is I'm in support of this with proper guardrails, but I think we have to be mindful of all of those around, neighbors around. I don't know if a sign off is required or not, but at least minimum distance, maybe perhaps minimum acreage on piece of property. And I think the city attorney brought forward a good idea that has been brought forward many, many years ago, and that was a pilot program. Might be the best place to start. But I'm pretty open to the dialogue if that helps you with giving direction to the city staff. I'm only one of the existing 9 council members, though, but I want to wait a yes with the guardrails in place. And with that, I'll yield.
You're running out of time, but I think you could direct a question to Ken Young about the square footage, because we have discussed that.
Very well. Mr. Young?
The question being?
I believe Alderwoman Drew wanted me to ask you about, do we have a minimum square footage or acreage required as part of the brainstorming or the draft that she's putting together?
I unfortunately don't have the draft in front of me, but yes, there's different ways we can go with that. And certainly I think we'll want to continue with that in our discussion and review as we look at a draft. But I think there are options that may please some of those who may have concerns. So yeah, we have some suggestions on that, but unfortunately I don't have that in front of me right now.
Well, right now, from what I understand, this is all very fluid, so there's nothing here that we're talking about is concrete. So I think those kind of discussions should take place and give us some more clarity moving forward. Thank you.
All right, we go to Pat Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The topic and the concept of urban hens is very new to me. I'm new coming on the council right now, and so when Councilwoman Foley asked me what I know about urban hens, I thought she was setting me up for a great punchline. I didn't really know anything about it, so it's been very, very interesting learning about it in the last few weeks. I'd like to thank Ward 1 resident Jeff Frink for answering a lot of my questions and providing me with some information. That's been very helpful. The things on my mind in this, and I'm very open-minded to it. I don't have a yes or no in mind right now. I like the idea. I am of the mindset that if people want to try something and it's a good idea and it doesn't hurt anybody else, then they should be given the opportunity to try. And if it works, fantastic. And if it doesn't work, well, then we have to back up. So that's kind of where my mindset is at. My questions / concerns at this time, when Mr. Evans got up and spoke about saying perhaps needing neighborhood approval, I know that's required in the zoning process if there's going to be a zoning change for a building or a house or something like that. And I think that might not be a bad idea to consider as part of the ordinance, that those around you that might be affected would need to sign off. I am concerned about the extra work it would cause for the Humane Society. They are very busy right now, and having to take on a project like this may or may not add significantly to their workload. I happen to be recently appointed to be the liaison to their organization, so I look forward to visiting with them and hearing to see what they have about it as well, because I'm sure they have some strong feelings. And also, I think we need to proceed cautiously and make sure we have time for public input. As Councilman Drew said, it was brought up in 2014, and it's now 2020. A lot of things changed in 6 years, so those that may have been greatly against it may be in favor of it now, and vice versa, and who knows. So I think it would be very much worth taking time for input. I encourage people to contact us and let us know what's on their mind about this issue, because things have changed a lot. I appreciate the comments from the realtor who got up and spoke. as we try to bring more people to our community, each element of that matters. And that is, as I've learned in studying and talking to people the last week or so about it, that is an issue in people coming to our area. I had no idea it was, but it obviously is. So that's where I'm at on the issue, and I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Laura Armstrong.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Actually, I just want to dovetail off of Mr. Solomon and Mr. Jones's comments. But first and foremost, I want to thank you, Mrs. Drew, for bringing this discussion forward. This is a community issue, and I think it's worthy of discussion. It does seem to be coming back, and I'm a firm believer of timing. And I greatly appreciate Mr. Young, and I believe you also had Vicki Fisher involved.
Yes.
So everyone that was involved in this project, I think we're all kind of looking at it through a kind of fine-tooth comb, and I am confident that we will find a healthy resolution to this. And I would like to commend Mr. Evans for bringing up the be a good neighbor concept. Whether you have a big barking dog or a pecking chicken, it's just good to be a good neighbor. We're a community. We need to work together and problem solve together and do good things together. So thank you, and I look forward to discussing this issue in the future. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Lance Lehman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say that I'm not yes or no at this point. I agree with Councilman Evans. I would like to hear more and from the community and all the stakeholders involved in this process. And I yield my time.
Thank you. I think that as I am the chair, I'm the last to speak, and because this is my issue, that the city funds the Black Hills Humane Society at a rate about $300,000 a year. It's not enough, but yet I would hope that they could find a way to be cooperative with us if we really do want to go forward with this. If they charge a substantial fee for permitting or licensing, it could actually be a moneymaker for them. Because we don't want this to be frivolous. We don't want people to go and pay $5 and get this. I don't. I'd like to see it be a substantial amount so that we know the people that are doing this are serious. And it is an expensive venture to have chickens, to have the coop the way that we have expressed it here. And also there are ways that you can lose your license as well. So I'm just going to say that there are ways that we can make this punitive for people that abuse their privilege of having chickens in their yard or in their area. And the area that we talked about with Ken was rather large, and it has to go in the backyard. It can't be on the side. It can't be near drainage. You know, it's got to be in your backyard. So therefore, it shouldn't be too disruptive of your neighbors. It's not going to be right outside their window. And so we have a lot to talk about, but I think we have enough here to at least think that we would like to move forward and direct staff to look into creating an ordinance, or if it's a pilot, or if it's just a direct ordinance, go ahead and go ahead and legalize this. I think they're looking at a pilot. So what I need from you guys is here on the dais is just would you support directing staff to go ahead and get us some more information and get an ordinance ready for us to look at. Jason?
Alderwoman Drew, I would support it for the sake of beginning that discussion, because you know the details are going to be where it's at on this.
That's what we're doing. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Pat? Councilman Jones?
I'll represent both of us. Yes, I also would be in favor of moving forward, and I certainly can't see the chickens being more annoying than the fireworks that have been going on the last 3 weeks, so I can certainly move forward with that. Thank you.
Could I get some opinion from Lance Lehman and also Laura Armstrong, please?
I'd be open for the discussion and see what the city staff can bring forward, open more dialogue for the stakeholders involved in this and my constituents.
Okay. Laura? Armstrong?
I'm for it, moving for discussion more, so.
Okay, so at this point, Joel Landine, attorney, city attorney, and also our Director of Community Development, Ken Young, I'd like to ask you guys to work on getting something ready. I'm, of course, I'm available for meetings as well to help us get something ready. It won't probably happen by Monday, but we can start working on this, and then we'll let the council know and our friends in the audience know what's going on, so that they can be apprised of what decisions are being made or what the ordinance is shaping up to be. One last thing I'd like to say, if anybody wants to see this, you can go online and go to rapidcity.gov.org, and we have videos available, or audios at least, available of these meetings. So if you'd like to present them to other organizations, you can do that. So at this time, I guess we're in consensus, and I'm not going to ask for a vote. It's just a consensus that we would like to see this go forward. And that's the end of the discussion.
I'll move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Jason Solomon, second by Lance Lehman. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.